Finally, I have the body shell painted, so this is time for part 7. I think it's part 7, in which I will go through actual reassembly steps. Now I have already reassembled this, so I did all the regluing or the final gluing, and I got the spring-loaded shafts on the bottom plate and also the drum on the bottom plate. I already have the 4 little shims or washers that were between this bottom gear and the bottom plate. So I had 4 washers here, 2 washers here between the bottom plate and this gear or piece or whatever it is, and 3 more, the bigger ones. These 3 more will come on top, so on top of the top roller. And I've also adjusted the zoom on my phone, so it's now filming at basically 2x magnification. Not that it matters, but I have changed the magnification, so hopefully you can see better what I'm doing. I did some marks on my working mat, some strips of masking tape, so I know what's in frame and what is not, and I will try to keep my hands and to work here with as little of my hair in the frame as possible. We'll see if that works. Alright, my plan is no, just a second, I'll get to the plan in a second. So this is the body shell. I already have the self-timer assembly bolted back because it's a 3-screw job, so it's super easy and super straightforward. Mind you, you have 1, 2 sunken head screws, so screws like this one. Okay, and the third one, which is here, is something like this one. It's more like a regular screw, but that's super obvious because these 2 holes have the sunken design, so they look like these 2. Alright, and this is my paint job. Not great, not terrible, just like in the Netflix series. It's not bad, but I would have done it a bit differently now. So long story short, I sandblasted all the areas, then applied the primer, 2 layers of black paint and 2 layers of glossy clear coat. Now the glossy clear coat is a bit too glossy, and yet it doesn't totally hide the dimples created by the sandblasting. So it's a bit of a weird effect. It's not really resembling the original paint in the sense that that was more of a semi-gloss. It wasn't matte finish, but it was a semi-gloss. But it's a lot better than it was before. I still have to glue the leatherette on the back. Yeah, so anyway, the paint is in one piece. It looks newish. I mean, I'm just dipping my toes in this custom paint part of the process. I'm not going to spoil any future videos, but there will be some series in the future on this topic. So on the topic of custom painting, of course, as much as I can do that custom painting right now, given my total lack of experience, but total involvement and desire to continue. Anyhow, so my plan is to get this shutter back into the crate, make sure that the sync between the meshing of the two gears is correct, so everything aligns properly up here. So up here, then take it out again. Take it out again and start adding stuff here, because this winding part should go first. It's easiest, or not easiest, but easier to have this part done before getting the shutter back. But I want to get rid of it. I mean, take it away from here, so it's not taking up space. In order to do that, I should have this in position, the shims, everything. So I think it's the best solution to have it tested before. All right, so this one should be something like this. Pretty much the pointy end points towards the right of the camera. And this one should be like this. Now, again, this notch will be engaged by the pin here. Now the pin points parallel to the long axis of the body, and this is also kind of in the same direction. So just to be safe, I will rotate this a bit further. Now, the system is a bit stupid on this camera. I mean, it's not stupid, it's interesting, but as long as you don't have the shaft through that hole, that thing is not moving freely at all. All right, then I will have to get this thing inside. Now keep in mind, when you'll be doing this for real during reassembly, you will also have a light baffle in the way, so more fun. And you'll also have to mesh it correctly with another piece that we will soon get to. Okay, this one goes there, this one goes there. Okay, and now I need to, this one I'm pretty sure you can't see, so I can spot here the gap, and I can also barely see the pin through this little slit, so I barely can see the pin, and the pin is pointing towards the back of the camera. So now if I rotate this just a bit more, now it's aligned. The pin is aligned with the hole, so that means that I am in the right position. Right, but also, and this is moving nicely, I can make another check on my handiwork just to make sure that the gap is nice, and it's pretty much perfect. And I can also check, I mean, let me rephrase. I must also check this, and right now this is too much towards the front of the camera. It should have been here. That means that I need to roll back the shutter, probably one tooth, and that means that I need to take it out slowly. And for some reason in this particular camera, it's not willing to move very freely. The idea is to take it out slowly in such a way that you don't mess the meshing, because if you do, you will have no more landmark. How do you say it? You lose what you have already found. So now take it out slowly while keeping a finger on this gear so that it stays in position. Get the drum and the shaft out, slightly rotate it back and try to get it back in there. Alright, and now let's try it again. Shaft in that hole, push it as far as it goes without forcing. Next, get these two shafts aligned with the holes in the top plate. Alright, and when it's right because you can see the shafts poking through these two little holes. And then same procedure. Come on. Why aren't you? Okay, something is amiss. Okay, let's do it a bit differently. I will assume that the position, the meshing is correct. In order to not risk losing my meshing, I will just put this gear back, tighten the screw, because there is one obvious rule, or yeah, one obvious rule that you should always abide. Never force things. If something is not running smoothly, that means that something is either wrong, or wrong as in broken, or wrong as in not put back correctly. Now in theory I can take this out and I won't lose the meshing because the little thingy, the little gear, is in the correct, not in the correct position. It's keeping everything stacked together. Alright, so this one should be more like this, and I will also add the 3 top shims. Yeah, right. Now these shims are pretty important because for one, they will reduce friction, I think. I mean, they should. But more than that, they act as spacers. So they are added in the factory to actually center, in this case, this big drum. All right. Now I will deviate from my initial plan and I will actually get the shutter in. No, I can't get the shutter in. Oh, goddamn. Alright, I'll just leave it here, prepared, and I will move to putting back stuff around here. Now, one thing that needs to go inside is this one. I don't know if I can get it back without removing the arm. I should, because I got it out without removing the arm, but For some reason I can't find, yeah, I can't find the correct way to put it back. And if you need to remove the arm, it is extremely difficult to put it back if the shutter is in position. And that is happening because you will see in just a moment. So I've got the screws right here. It's not very easy to do it like this either, actually, because the shaft is moving down. But you did get my point, right? So if you have the shutter inside, you can lock the shutter on bulb and get your finger through the opening, yes, but this will be uh, out of reach. So you would need to actually tighten that screw on an angle, and for that you would most likely need something like this. So a screwdriver or a bit that was filed slanted on an angle. Alright, and now this one should go on the front, but that will make this arm move like this, so it's not time yet. I would need this, so the top bracket of the light shield that I can't replace yet. All right, what else? In essence, as I said before, this is the box of things, and now I should go like this, because that the reverse order of this assembly, and I'll do just that. So well, except this one, this is the rewind shaft. It's not important now, we have this that will connect the shutter to the winding mechanism and sits here. And in order to actually get it back, I would also need to get this one back. And to get this one back, I would need to get this one back. So yeah, there's an order. There is an order. This one goes here. This one has a long spring. Then it has this little piece and goes in here. And I usually find a lot of oil lubricant, dried lubricant on the spring, and by lubricant I mean grease, not oil. So everything was initially kind of soaked in lubricant, and I only use a bit on this upper part where this little guy moves in and out. Now this little guy, it's a cylinder that has two notches, not notches, two protuberances, two prongs on one end. That end goes up because it will engage in the two notches that are on this gear. Okay, so it goes up. This one goes first, then this one after. It has a little hole. The hole should be aligned with the slot, obviously, and it has a little screw that keeps everything in place. And what I usually do, I take the tweezers, push it in, turn it, align it with the slot, and kind of keep everything together between my fingers. Get the screw back, done. Work it around a bit and wipe the excess lubricant. Now about lubrication, I honestly don't know what's too much, what's too little, what's enough, what should go where, as in a definitive guide or something that is very academic or the right way to go about this kind of stuff. I don't know. I just do it as I found works best, and just today one of these Zorkis, I mean my own camera, that has a kind of a different approach to ensuring the film doesn't go back, or the shutter, actually the shutter doesn't go back on its own. So there's a little edge, we'll get to that quite soon. So my camera unfortunately has a very stupid system for that. This one is better engineered, and my camera proved how important a bit of lubrication of the correct kind in the correct place, what kind of difference this little bit of lubrication does. It was yeah, it was very interesting. All right, so you have the sprocket shaft, you have this connection gear or connecting gear with its shaft. This one goes in here, and the entire assembly, I mean, you don't have to get this one right now because you can slide it through here. Anyhow, between this one and this one there are two washers, but beneath this one, if I remember correctly, I have a screw, a little spring, and that little latch. In my case, the latch was a lot bigger and it was latching or locking different gears. In this case, if I remember correctly, the latch sits somewhere around here. I think I'll need to look on my initial video. No, it can't be like this. Maybe it is like, no, then like this. No. So yeah, I'm missing something, and that brings me to another very important rule that someone told me a year and a couple of months ago when I started, and my first let's say my first real experience with a Soviet camera was a Zenith 122, I think it's called. I really didn't like the camera operationally, and from a design point of view it's kind of similar with the others, but I messed it up, but I did learn a lot of good lessons from that particular camera. And the rule was that it's very important, at least in the beginning, to go on step-by-step approach, in the sense that you disassemble a little bit, 2-3 pieces, not much more. Take them apart, study them, put them back. Take them apart, study them, put them back. And after a couple of these assemblies, disassemblies, you will get a good feeling of the anatomy and the functionality of that particular area of the camera. When that is clear, move on. Don't get everything out in one go, because you will forget stuff. I haven't worked on many Zorkis, Zorki 6 in particular. So this bit is not an unknown, but it's a bit different than what I remember, because one little gear like this, if it's not in the correct place, you're screwed. And this most likely should be, this is a gear, this is a gear, so it has to sit here, but I do not remember the way it sits. Maybe like this. Let's take it logically. So this big screw keeps that in place. This one, I think, is also here, and one end is supposed to get in this little slot or slit. So there's a little cutout here, and that is the perfect shape in which one of these little springs can fit. So that means that the other one should be probably like this. No, maybe it's the other way around. No, yeah, I'm just going to take a look on my first video, see how it's done, and come back. Alright, so I think I was actually right. Just take this out. So yeah, this is the correct position. It pretty much couldn't have been otherwise. Of course, you can go in a logical approach. This piece has a step, so it's like an L. This is raised, so it makes sense that the step in the piece was created in order to lower this end of the gear. So this one goes like that, and then this one, yeah, what intrigued me was the fact that I couldn't understand where this end, or what that end sits against, but I think it does rest against this. This one should be here. So this L-shaped end probably is, I mean not probably, but certainly, come on, get out. It's shaped like that, so it would catch here. Okay, so you have the latch, you have the spring and the screw. Right, now the end of the spring goes in front of the latch. Then if I get this one here, it will make the latch go forward, and if I get this one inside, this piece or this part of the latch gets between the teeth of this gear and locks it from turning clockwise. It will allow it to turn counterclockwise but not clockwise. Being spring loaded means that the action of the spring is the only thing that always pushes the latch against the gear, and it also means that the chances that the latch will slip from the teeth of the gear are pretty much none. In the case of my Zorki, which is, I believe, an earlier iteration, although the serial number I think starts, let me check. So this one is 6500 Now 65 is probably the production year, okay, and mine is 61. Okay, so it's a bit earlier. Yeah, and that latch in my camera is not spring-loaded. It's friction. It moves by friction. So it also sits under this gear, and the rotation or the movement of the gear moves it like this or like this. When you wind the camera, it's this motion. So it's a counterclockwise rotation, and the latch moves counterclockwise. It's like this. So this is the latch. It has a middle pivoting point. The thing on the bottom, the part on the bottom, when this gear turns counterclockwise and tries to rotate this latch counterclockwise, the bottom part of the latch stops against this little protrusion of the body shell. So even if the gear itself rotates, the latch won't spin freely because it's stopped against this part of the body shell. When the shutter moves, so you release the shutter, and no, not when you release the shutter. When you let go of the cocking arm or lever, this ledge is the only thing that keeps the shutter on the cocked position. So without the ledge, the curtains will move back to the resting position. When the curtains are pulling or trying to move back, they will also rotate the sprocket shaft and obviously this gear. So the gear will try to rotate clockwise. When that happens, the gear by friction should also move the ledge like this. So the top part or the front part of the ledge, which is also something like this little pole, gets stuck between the teeth of the next gear. So not this one, but the next one. Obviously, if there is not enough friction between this gear and that ledge, the ledge will be pretty much pushed aside by the teeth of the gear, and it will not latch the gear, it will not lock the gear. And that was my big problem. It was simply not locking the gear. Why was that happening? Well, because I cleared and I cleaned all the gears of the old lubricant, and I did not apply new lubricant, because I only lubricate things by, this is how I got used. That's why I'm saying I don't know if it's right or wrong. Obviously it was wrong in this particular case, but I would only lubricate this shaft, because this one spins in that shaft. This is copper, that is, I don't know what kind of bushing this is. It's probably some copper alloy as well, but in order to facilitate the in order to reveal the unbelievable smoothness of the camera, the unrivaled engineering of the Soviets, you need a lot of lubricant. Otherwise everything will feel like the camera has been visiting the seaside and the sand. Alright, that is looking good, and I will also have to add the sprocket shaft now. And this one goes here. Now the shims, you need to usually center the shims. And unfortunately my tweezers is magnetized, so bloody hell. What you can do is use, come on, one of them good old toothpicks. Alright. And now you will need to turn this back and forth a couple of times, one against the other, until you are pretty sure that they have engaged correctly. After they have, keep these two pressed one against the other and screw that little guy in. And that should keep everything in position. So now you can't separate them. There is a groove, a circumference. Along the circumference of the shaft of this gear there is a groove. This little screw must engage in that groove. I'm sorry for my wonderful English. Alright, so we have one gear in position. This sprocket shaft is in position. We are good to go to the next gear, of course. What else do we have here? I have 4 little screws at number 21 and this little pin. Now the 4 little screws are from this baffle. Now take a good look at the baffle. You can take it out and put it even if everything here is in place, but it's a pig of a job. So the correct order is baffle first. Also, before putting the baffle and not being able to see anything and having to stick this pin inside this cane like this in the blind just by touching, which is another pig of a job, it's better to get these on before. So a very slight deviation from my disassembly sequence. I will get this one inside here. Now this cane is what actually transferred the releasing motion from the shutter button to the spring plate that actually releases the shutter. So when you press on the release button, you are in fact pushing this little disc down like this, and this little disc rides against the cane. So you press the release, the disc goes down, this one goes down, pushing this little, not little, this big pin, because they don't go further in, and that pin pushes on the release on the spring plate. Kind of funky. All right, and because the cane always goes up and down inside this groove, I reckon some good old moly grease will make life a bit smoother. Now what a little means, I will let you be the judge of that. Because in the end you can always take out some of the lubricant or add more. Okay, so that one goes there, and the pin goes through this middle hole and engages inside the cane. Now imagine doing this with a bloody light shield in front of you, not seeing anything. It's not the best idea. Alright, so this is the movement. I'm not really happy with the feeling of it. So I will probably have to add some lubricant, not in this groove, as much as in the actual hole that this rides against. So in here and in there. In essence, if the camera was running smoothly before you started, it should run even more smoothly after you've finished, in essence. Because there's no way the old lubricant was any kind of, or kept any kind of miraculous property. So whatever new, yeah, it's better. Whatever new lubricant you'll be using, it is certainly an upgrade. Alright, so that is that. This one goes here, and it will be all wobbly until you get more parts in. But before that, we need to get this one back. And if I remember correctly, these little screws, no, I remember that they didn't, they weren't magnetic or magnetized. No, I remember correctly. Which makes things even more tricky if you need to get this back in position with the take-up spool in position. Because the take-up spool goes like this and pretty much covers the two screws. This one is quite accessible, with a bit of patience, but the one on the top is a nightmare. And to take this one out, you need to take this one out, so more disassembly. Not to mention, if you drop one of these screws here when everything is in position, the shutter and all, it's wonderful. Alright, next we have two more gears from the top winding gear assembly, and we have these from this. Oh, and not to forget of these two little wires before getting the shutter back. So this one goes here, this one goes here. This one goes like this. And let me check this one. Right, so shim goes here between the spring and the take up spool's larger shaft. All right, okay, then we have these like so, and go here, and this one goes from the top. Okay. And now we can go back to the gears. So we have two gears that are different. So one is larger, one is smaller. I don't really remember which one goes where, but it's very easy to figure it out because they need to mesh correctly 1, 2, 3, and one of these is threaded differently, this one, and I think this one goes on the top hole. All right, let's see, this one matches perfectly here, and this one matches perfectly there. I will get some grease here, so where it spins against the screw. I'm not going to get lubricant on the actual teeth of the gears because lubricant will attract dust, and some say that that dust will kind of grind down the teeth of the gears. Maybe, maybe not. But what I have found is that lubricating the actual teeth will not make the camera any more smooth, so it's useless. Alright, those are in place. And now we have this guy. It comes on top and actually centers this shaft. And it has three bigger screws, one smaller. The third one is actually this one. It has that little stopper, it goes here, and you can put it after you've got the back door, since it's hinged when you have the back door in position. I won't be doing that now because I need a film gate available to calibrate the shutter. So I will only get these three for the time being. I will get the top plate back just in... no, actually I don't need to get the top plate. I only need to get one screw from the top plate that goes here, and that keeps the big spring of the winding lever in place. I very much prefer the Zorki 4 design. I mean, a nice working Zorki 4 is just as smooth, if not smoother or a lot smoother than a Zorki 6, at least from my limited experience so far, and it has no hassle with springs and lots of gears and weird latches, and it's just a simple and sturdy design, and pretty much nothing can go wrong with that camera. And if you want to make it even more bulletproof, you simply need to remove the slow speed escapement, and that's that. You get a bulletproof camera. Alright, and we also need to get this little button back while we still can, because after you have whatever sits on top of this in place, meaning the rewind, the advance lever, and its cover, what it is, you no longer have access to this little screw. Where is my screwdriver? Okay, I need to check that screw. It seems that the threaded hole for it is enlarged in some way. Right, what else? I'm going to need to remember about this guy. This is the pin from the self timer. It goes in this bigger hole. Not necessarily at this moment, because you might actually lose it. Alright, this one goes here. And right now we are pretty close to being able to get the shutter back. What I did not do, because I forgot them, is threading these. Yeah, no way. No way. Alright, so this is the uncocked position and this is the check. So this prong aligns with the marks, and that should mean that I am good to go. The wires are routed correctly, so I can now get a couple of screws in just to make sure everything is okay. And I should be able to replace this bit here that keeps the take-up spool steady. But before that I should tighten this screw. I think it was only slightly tightened. Okay. And now I should be able to get at least one of the two brackets of the light shield in place, and the first one will be the upper one because the lower one has the same screw points or screw holes with this. And in order to get this in place, which goes like this, I should also put back the contact board. It's not actually a board but just this little guy. And I think I need to adjust, I'm sure I need to adjust the two metal pads. So I will do that a bit later. So for now I need this one and the little two screws. This is one of those super annoying parts that just require patience and luck. And I do have patience, but I think I'm out of luck. So I managed to get a hold of the edge of the bracket with my fingernail, and hopefully I can keep it in place, but no, it moved. This is a nightmare. It's just a nightmare because you don't have room to get your finger and get a hold of that. So it's simply trial and error. Finally, I got it. Okay, and for the next one, and now I lost the screw. Okay, there it is. Alright, next I should get this back. Very little trace of oil. So very little trace of oil on the two holes that this latch will go through. And before getting the latch there, I will pull on this spring like so. Now this pin should move up and down, but it doesn't, and that makes me think that the cane shape thing is out of position for some reason. Okay, I'll do one more thing and I will stop for this part of the series. I will get this back. Just so that I can see that everything is working, because right now some things are a bit fishy and I want to make sure everything is all right. So I also need this guy. So you need to keep this rewind release button pressed so that the end of that shaft pops out, and when it pops out you can get it like this, so you can catch that little cutout inside the shaft with the spring plate. All right, and now for the second funky part, I'll have to get this bracket here. Hopefully it will be easier, and it is easier because the axis is completely different. Align all the holes. And that's 2. Okay, so if I am right now, it should work. Why is it not working? Oh, because see, the end of this spring plate should also cover this pin. Oh god, I don't really like this camera. I mean, compared to Zorki 4, for instance. Alright, so something like this. Let's see. Okay, so I don't have enough tension on the first curtain. Now, one last thing, and I will stop. I always, after getting the shutter inside the body, so the shutter crate inside the body, I always release tension on both curtains and restart, because the tension that I initially use is kind of random, so I just use whatever tension seems to be needed to actually get the curtains to stay on one side. Okay, so theoretically right now both curtains are with zero tension. I will start with the first curtain, which is this one, so the adjustment to the back of the camera, and I will use 3 full turns. So I will get my key inside, and 1, 2, 3, and now lock the locking nut. 3 turns means 3 full counterclockwise turns. Okay, and for the second curtain I will use only 2. Now obviously this is 1, and as you increase the tension, let's say for each full turn After each full turn, stop and tighten the locking nut. Otherwise, it will simply unscrew from the shaft, and then you will have to start over. Alright, so the shutter seems to be doing something, and now it was supposed to alright, so the second curtain is not closing. Why is that? Because it should have enough power. Let me check it again. So something is weird. It usually works perfectly fine with 2 full turns. Now it has 3. And it barely moves. It's like something is rubbing on something else. And my first impression is that the light shield is not centered correctly, which is something that needs to be adjusted because you don't really get it the correct way from the get-go. I will need to further investigate this because it should have worked. It should have worked correctly by now. All right. But something is dragging on the second curtain. Okay, I did some research and I think I got it. It seems to be working fine. I had to put the winding lever back because it was too hard cocking the shutter from the sprocket shaft. The problem was that the edges of the light shield were actually rubbing against the rollers. This edge on these 2 rollers and the other edge on the actual take-up roller of the first curtain. It doesn't make much sense because the ribbons are original, so I didn't change them. I didn't use maybe a thicker material that would lead to a bigger diameter once the ribbon is rolled on the rollers. I don't understand why, but that was the case. I slightly bent that edge and the other one downwards, and now there is a very faint gap between the rollers and the edge on this side when the shutter is cocked, and also on this side when the shutter is uncocked. So yeah, that was the issue. Also, since they used on the back of the light shield, they used those two strips of baffle material. I don't know if you can hear it. There is a lot of friction between that material, which is something like this, only harsher. This is from a film cassette. So there's a lot of friction between that material and the actual edge of the curtain, so the metal edge. And that is one of the reasons for which this second curtain is not moving. Look, if I move it forward and backward, let me use a grappling hook. That's the sound. That's the sound that the curtain makes when it's rubbing against that bloody material. So I am considering to actually remove it, because as far as I know, there will be no light leaks from that area. Come on. Yeah, okay, I will just investigate further and I'll make a decision about that. But it's kind of, it's a shame to go through all this trouble to get everything polished and shiny and slippery just to have some useless light shield baffle material, because come on, that's not where the light will come through if there is to have a light leak. Most likely it will be around the door seals, so I will think about it.